Hello everyone, how are you all? Today we are starting a new series where we are looking at iconic historic buildings in and around Edinburgh that are now pubs. So how are you? Hope you're all happy and healthy and safe and well out there. As you can see, I am out and about again today. Just out for a general exercise walk and taking advantage and taking you along with me at the same time. This new series is of course a great idea, which means it was Kirsten's idea, not mine. She has a knack of coming up with these good ideas. So yeah, there are so many incredible, brilliant buildings in and around Edinburgh, and they're now pubs. So yeah, there's, as you can see, I've got the umbrella up, which at least it keeps the camera dry today as well. There are incredible buildings around Edinburgh, as you know that, in the centre of it, out to the outskirts and out to surrounding areas as well, that have got incredible history, and they're pubs now. Some of them have been pubs for a long time, so it's an iconic part of their history now as well. Some have been pubs for a lot less, but they weren't originally pubs. So I thought I didn't think, Kirsten thought it's a great idea to tell you the story of some of these buildings. And now that they're pubs, you can still go in them and you can see them, and although the pub might not be its original idea, it is still a way of keeping that building relevant in the time, looking after it and allowing you to go into it. So you have to look at the positives on these things as well. So we're on the Royal Mile. That you might not believe it right now, but we are on the Royal Mile because, you know, we're under an umbrella. And the first building on this iconic buildings that are now pubs tour is the old Tolbooth Tavern. And here it is, right here, as I back up. I can't see if anyone's walking behind me. And this is it, right here, the old Tolbooth Tavern. It is a beautiful building, and it's one of these buildings that its picture is taken a lot. You will see it you'll probably be able to find it on Instagram all over the place, on postcards and pictures of Edinburgh and everything like that, because it is a beautiful, old, iconic building with a brilliant history. Now obviously for this series, at least just now when we're starting it, when we're still in restrictions, I can't go in. I can't go into the pub and have a drink and show you it. And I don't know the complete history of this part of the building as part of it as well. I'm going to guess it probably is. This part's the part of it, the old Tolbooth Tavern here, with Tolbooth wine and the clock up there as well. Why is it called the Tolbooth Tavern? Well, its first bit of life was as a toll booth. In the 1590s that was built. You heard me right, 1590s. I think there's a plaque on there which we will have a look at in a minute, but if I remember correctly, 1591. I'm not 100%, but I'm sure I'll be able to double check that in a second. Historically wise, I'm staying in this close here because I'm out of the rain. I'm still holding an umbrella up for some reason, but I'm out of the rain. That was a toll booth to get into Edinburgh. Now the borough of Edinburgh, like I said before, used to stop at what is now the World's End pub, the Royal Mile there. That was essentially gates to get into town. That's the toll booth. You had to pay a toll to get into the borough of Edinburgh. This being the borough of the Canongate. It was separate to Edinburgh. It was a different thing. You have to remember, as Edinburgh expanded, it enveloped lots of other little towns and villages and things like that. So Dean Village, Stockbridge, Leith, all these sort of areas got enveloped into Edinburgh. They weren't originally part of Edinburgh. They were little places in themselves that have just been taken over by the bigger monster, I suppose you could kind of put it that way. Especially Leith. Leith did not want to become part of Edinburgh, and that's only about 100 years or so ago. It's a big, there was a vote for Leith, asking the people of Leith if they wanted to join Edinburgh, and they voted no, and they still became part of Edinburgh. So that's a big thing, really. Definitely a big thing for the people of Leith. But yeah, this is now a pub, as you can see. But it's been a pub for a while. Like the sign above the door there, established 1820. So it has been a pub for 200 years. So that's still a long time. You know what I mean? But before we go into more of the history of this building, let's take a wander up the Royal Mile. So, this would have been the toll booth. You would have came here and you would have paid a toll from the borough of Canongate, which is where we are in, and you would have headed up here to the gates of Edinburgh. Now, that is quite a big gap from where we are at the Tolbooth Tavern to then where the gates are. So I'm not quite sure how that would have worked. I don't know if they gave you a ticket and said, right, that's you paid. I don't know, they must have gave them something, but yeah, you had to go all the way up here. And this is us here at the World's End, which was essentially the start of Edinburgh. It's the World's End because if you were leaving Edinburgh, then it was the end of the world. And if you ever come to this area, you can see the outline of the gates. I have told you this before, but a while ago, so for those of you that may be newer to the channel, if you look down and you see these gold bricks here, you see they go out there, there we go. See how it comes back in there, goes down, and then kind of comes back. Oh, here we go, there, and then there we go, there's another one, and it kind of arches there. That's the gates. So that little gap there between there and there, that would have been the gates to Edinburgh, right in there, in between these gold bricks, this lane right there. That's the old gateway to Edinburgh. So you would have had to walk up from the toll booth down there to here to then get in to Edinburgh, which would have been here. So this would have been officially us in Edinburgh now. So if you're looking at the pub from that side, it's the World's End, and if you're looking at it from this side, it should really be called the World of Starks, because this would have been you in Edinburgh. Historically wise, if you look at the brickwork and everything there, you can see the changes of when things have been built. Because I do think there's more to it than just this little part here. That's the original. I've got water on the lens. There we go. Rain on the lens. Is that better? You can see the time difference between this part here and this part here. And I'm going to guess this part here, which is now the people's story at the end there, was all originally part of the same thing, especially if that was a prison, a court and a prison. That must have been part of that. But you know I love old doors. You know I love old doors, and this is just beautiful. Look at that. I mean, look at that. That's like touching history. Well, actually, that's like touching history as well. But you know, there's something about it being a wooden door that just seems to lend it more gravitas. You know what I mean? And here we have a little bit of the history. So let's have a look at this. The Tolbooth Tavern. The Tolbooth Tavern is part of the original Canongate Tolbooth, which was built in 1591. Haha, I was right. The building was used to collect tolls from travellers entering the borough, but has also served as a council chamber, police court and prison. The prison was tenanted by those who suffered in the cause of liberty, and many of its captives were wrongly detained and brutally treated. Oh, I would love to hear more of that history. A suspected warlock is thought to have been exorcised here by the law successor to the Abbot of Holyrood, Sir Lewis Bellenden. The unfortunate soul was so terrified by the fierce preacher, he is said to have died of fright soon after the experience. In 1654, Oliver Cromwell's guard detained several Scottish enemies to the state in the building, but the Tolbooth walls could not hold them, and they made their escape. using strips of blankets as rope, lowering themselves to freedom from the upper floors. See, now that's cool. That's like your typical, you know, movie thing, tying the blankets together in knots and then escaping down the side here. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. The Covenanters were also imprisoned in the Tolbooth cells between 1661 and 1688. Many of the prisoners were sent to the plantations of the Caribbean for several years' hard labour. Wow. After this period, they could return to Scotland or remain in the colony. However, before their departure, all the captives were marked so they could not escape their past. Women had their faces branded with an iron, while men had ears chopped off. Wow, that's harsh. The rear section of the pub was originally built as housing in 1750 and was still used for the purpose into the early 20th century. And while this area of the establishment is not as old as the front, many people find it the most eerie and have claimed to feel a presence. The front area became a tavern in 1820, with the rear area following suit some 100 years later. It has traded in this fashion up to the present day. So, like I said, it's still been a pub for 200 years. So that's still a significant part of history. But it's an incredible building with an incredible history. Don't you just think it is an absolutely beautiful building? I do love this building. I can't wait to be able to go back in and have a pint. Hopefully we will all get there soon. But even that door, even the pub door, that's not a young door. You know what I mean? I know I get excited about these things, I'm sorry. I'm just a big geek, but you all know that already. I think we need to go have a look at some of the side of the building at the back as well before we finish off. Let's head down the close, shall we? Actually, what's that? What's that little door there? Why is there a little door there and a little window? What's going on there? Even just walking down here, look at that. Is that not brilliant? It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful little building. Little back door here, Tolbooth Tavern. And again, not young doors. And then if we go here, this is the part of the building which became a pub later. But again, not young at all. Isn't it just an incredible building? Even the back of it is beautiful. So there you have it, guys, the Tolbooth Tavern. An incredible building with a brilliant history, going back a long, long way. 1591, it's still standing here and standing strong. It's been a massive part of Edinburgh and Scottish history after reading that plaque as well. And now it's a pub. And you can go in. And I'm saying now it's a pub. It's been a pub for 200 years. You know what I mean? That's a long time in itself. People have been going in there and having a beer for 200, actually. Going back to the time it was built, they wouldn't be able to, it would be oysters and claret. Because that's what the poor people had. Oysters and claret. It was a hard life back then, wasn't it? Actually, yeah, it was. But yeah, there you have it, guys. The Tolbooth Tavern. So if you're, when you can finally come back and visit, have a little nip in there. Have a little nip while you're in there. Yeah. Hope you've enjoyed that, guys. There's so many more iconic buildings that we can visit that are now pubs. Like I said, in and around Edinburgh, not just here, not just in the centre of Edinburgh. We can really travel out and see stuff like this. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, as always, please give a like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you know any others, please tell me. I want to know loads. We can go visit them all and see the history of them, and hopefully eventually we can go into them as well. Can't on this one, but hopefully eventually we can. But yeah, till next time, bye humans.